Childhood is time of exploration. Despite parents' dismay, it's an essential process of a person's life to experience and learn. So kids would sneak into dusty, dark corners, strike up a match, put whatever stuff in their mouth, and stick their fingers in any odd hole without a fear of potential consequences. The adventurous spirit soars even higher when kids are in a company of their friends. For a gang of kids, the world would be too small to rummage through. Most of the times, they come out of their adventures just with a hole on their trousers, a few scratches here and there, and at worst a broken limb perhaps, but largely unharmed. But in some rare cases, the adventure turns out to be a misadventure that none could have expected. After all, world wouldn't spare them just because they are young. Today we are taking a look at stories of childhood adventures gone wrong. 4 allegedly true stories from Korea, as always handpicked, translated and narrated by your host, Anthony. Back in 2000, I was 11. Airsoft guns were all the rage among boys, and kids would often play a sort of live combat games together. My school authority didn't approve of the gun and would confiscate them, so boys came up with an alternative place to play carefreely: an abandoned factory ground in the area. The front gate was chained and locked, but the backside of the ground facing the rice field and river had plenty of holes where we could enter through. We often gathered there after school and played until dusk. There was a rumor that some saw a truck rolling into the long abandoned factory after sunset, but I myself or my friends had never seen one and just thought other kids were trying to scare us away to keep the ground to themselves. One day, one of my friends brought in a new boy, obviously from a richer family. Our cheap spring-powered guns were no match to his powerful battery-powered gun. It could not only shoot multiple shots at a time, but had much longer firing range too. There was simply no way to win against this superior weapon. It didn't take many days till every boy got tired of fighting the unfair game, unless of course the rich boy with the golden gun was on their team. Then one suggested that he should fight against us all 5. The rich boy wasn't fazed at all and said, "Bring it on." So 5 of us scattered around to find a place to hide and cover, leaving him like a lone cowboy in a western film. He seemed looking around, saying lines like, "Where are you hiding, chickens?" and things like that. The next moment said, "What are you doing there?" and started walking into the factory building. Not playing inside the building was our unwritten rule. There were lots of debris and broken glasses, and one friend had once fallen on them and cut his hand badly that required stitching. The rich boy knew the rule well by then too. We were a bit confused, but waited for him to come out again. He didn't. Dusk was setting in already by then. Fortunately, one boy's gun was equipped with a flashlight, and we decided to venture inside together. It was really dark inside, not a single ray of evening sun reaching in. It was also eerily silent apart from our footsteps, which soon turned into crackling noises of broken glass pieces. It meant we were deep inside a building. Then suddenly, from afar, we heard an echoing voice. "Rock, paper, scissors. You are the it again. Count to 30. 30, 29, 28, 27. We followed the voice of the counting down, and finally found a rich boy standing facing a wall and counting. We smacked him at the back of the head and asked what the heck he was doing. The boy shouted back to us that why we weren't hiding. "What are you talking about? Since when do you play hide and seek by yourself? We were waiting for you outside all this time," I said. "No way! We've been playing here just now," Rich Boy insisted. He seemed to think we were playing a prank on him. Whatever. We found him anyway, so we're about to head back out. But then a friend held my sleeves and whispered, "Truck! It's that truck!" Indeed, from where we were on the upper floor, we could see over the mezzanine a big lorry truck rolling into the building, stopping in the middle, and its engine turning off. But nobody came out of it, nor there was anybody else around it. One friend grumbled impatiently, "What are they waiting? My mom would kill me for being so late already." But then other friend looked startled and pointed out, "Look, there's nobody in the truck." But just then, from somewhere above us, we heard the echoing voice again. "Rock, paper, scissors. Ha, you are the it. Count to 30. We exchanged a frightened glance. There were all 6 of us. Whose voice was it then? We all just started running until we got well away from the factory ground. We stopped by a tree to catch our breath. The rich boy seemed still stunned. With teary eyes he asked, "Who were the boys I played hide and seek then?" He even lent his expensive gun to one of them, but nobody could dare to go back to find it. We did come back to the factory the following day after school. The mystery truck was gone, of course, and we found the expensive gun broken into pieces outside a factory building. No need to say that was the last time we ever went anywhere near there. I hear the old factory ground has now turned into an industrial waste yard. I sometimes wonder if they will be still playing hide and seek there. I lived in a countryside for the most of my childhood. I fondly remember those years as the time I had most fun in my life. With 2 of my best buddies, every day was a little adventure. Over the field, in the mountains, and in the little stream, we ran constantly up and down, catch fishes and frogs, and generally fooling around. In the mountain that wasn't very high was an old copper mine, long abandoned. I hear it was most active during the colonial time. Even from the village, one could easily spot the gaping black hole that was the entrance of the mine. As most kids would, we had a thing about having our own secret hiding place. We would find a quiet spot in the mountain and build a shelter with cardboard boxes and empty sacks. I don't know why everything was more fun when we were stuck in that small space on top of each other. But of course, every rain would ruin our precious paper castle, and we had to start again. So we were very excited when one day we spotted a small abandoned storage house. Calling it a storage house would be an exaggeration, actually. It was more a shed, a square bracket of a structure with corrugated roofing. I would describe it spooky if I saw it now, but young boys that we were had no such concept at all. Soon it became our firm favorite space to hang out. One summer day, I and two buddies were bored to death after spending all afternoon inside because of the torrential summer shower. As soon as it stopped, we decided to head to our hiding spot, not minding now slippery mud pit of the road on the way. Almost there, I had to lag behind to pee. When I finished my business, I had one friend shouting out, "Hey!" I just expected he was up for some prank or joke again. When I walked up to him, he was blankly looking at our shelter. There, in the open entrance of the shed, was the other friend, wearing some black skirt or a rag, doing some funny dance showing his buttocks to us. The skirt seemed to have been made of black tassels, and it shimmered like that of a Hawaiian dancer. I laughed out loud and ran up to him shouting, "What are you doing, you crazy dog?" But as I got closer and could see more clearly, I realized it wasn't my body doing a grotesque hula dance, but a woman standing on hands and shaking her head like mad. The black tassel skirt was actually the woman's hair. I fell backwards and half ran, half crawled back to my friend, who was still frozen with panic and pissed himself. I dragged him down the way, where we found the second friend, fainted. Apparently the first one was frozen stuck on the spot, while the second sprained his ankle during his desperate run away, fell on the ground, and passed out. It totally traumatized us. We never stepped near the mountain again, and I couldn't bear watching horror films or TV shows all my childhood. It is still a taboo to talk about the day when we reunite to this day. What was that woman? Who'd she have been? Might she have been a victim of a hard labor in the copper mine under brutal Japanese management? Or perhaps an innocent victim of the Korean War? I would never know. In the town I lived in my childhood, was a large construction site. Apparently the construction stopped, leaving the large plot of clearing with various bits of bricks, iron beams, pile of sand, and an old little house they hadn't yet demolished and left on the plot. The house must have been long abandoned even before the construction commenced, but nobody seemed to know for how long exactly. The empty plot turned quickly into a playground for town's kids, and I, of course, was one of them that flocked around the plot. One day my brother, I, and another boy decided to explore inside of that abandoned house. It was half buried under dirt and rubbles. Long abandoned and crumbling down, I guess it should be only natural that it felt grim and creepy inside. But then I happened to find a Barbie doll in the house. Could it have belonged to a girl who used to live there? I could not resist the pretty doll in red dress, so I took it with me. Next day, we three again headed to the house. We wanted to make a little fireplace inside. Like most kids, we loved to play with fire. What fun it was to roast some sweet potatoes or chestnuts on it, or even just looking into the fire. The house seemed to be a perfect place to do that, with no risk of getting found out by adults and reprimanded. We started fire with newspapers and tree branches on the dirt-clad floor. But things escalated in the way we didn't expect. The fire flared up wildly and started spreading up and onto the wallpapers. I still don't understand how it happened, because the room was empty and had nothing combustible. We tried to put it off with dirt, but to no avail. Fire spreaded all over the house, and we had to run away, all the way to the hill looking down the plot. There we could only helplessly watch with fear the house going up in flames. Fortunately, somebody must have called the fire brigade, and they managed to put off the fire. For a good few days, we dared not come anywhere near the plot or the house. We were afraid somebody recognized us as arsons. But it didn't take too long till we eventually brushed the guilty weight off. One day, I woke up from a nap. I opened my eyes and tried to get up, but I could not move at all. It felt like my body didn't belong to me anymore. This must be what people called sleep paralysis, I thought. While I struggled to get out of it, I saw a white hand reaching over my face from the side. I must have fainted, as I don't remember what happened afterwards. But that was just the beginning. I started getting recurring nightmares. I couldn't remember the details when I woke up, but the fleeting images of a girl smiling, her red dress and her white hands were always there, and that those white hands always tried to catch and drag me away. One day, Mom asked me, "I found this under the bed while I was cleaning your room. Is this yours?" In her hand was the Barbie doll I took from the abandoned house. I could not find it a while and thought I'd lost it somehow. Seeing the doll again, it suddenly gave me flashbacks of my nightmare. That girl, red dress, white hands. I was gripped by a sudden terror and bursted into tears. Leaving confused Mom behind, I ran straight to the abandoned house, or what was left of it after the fire. I left the doll on the ashes and pleaded, "I'm sorry, so sorry. Please take it back. Please don't come back. I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Fortunately, the nightmare stopped, and neither the girl in red dress nor the white hands ever visited me again. I don't know if it was that my desperate plea had worked, or if it just decided to go to another girl. It's from already quite some time ago, when I was a child. I lived in a remote country village whose inhabitants were all relatives in one way or the other. There was no such a thing as a school bus, and even public bus service was sporadic, so we all walked good 1 hour distance to the school on foot. I was yet little and always tagged along to my older cousins. One day we started our journey back home later than usual because my cousins played football after school. We started from school as dusk was already setting, and by the time we reached the foot of the hill leading to our village, it was totally dark. I was scared a bit, but all the cousins were next to me, and there was no other option but pushing on with our journey. Unfortunately, over the hill, we had to pass through several tombs dotted around. With no flashlights or mobile phones, we practically groped our way in a single file. Suddenly, the oldest cousin, who was leading the way, stopped and froze on the spot. All he did was uttering unintelligible series of moans. When I and other cousin looked up, a shapeless, hazy white thing was flying up and down over the tombs. No explanation was necessary. We all thought the same. A ghost. We all froze, could not move, could not speak. I was terrified the moment I turned around and moved, if that thing might come and grab me. The ghost looked like a long white skirt. It stopped flying up and down and turned towards us, and flew right over. I was a whole wet mess with tears, sweat, and snivel, and piss. A cousin gasped a flurry of "No, no, no," and collapsed. And I followed not long after. I woke up with Dad shaking me up. I just hopped into his arms and shivered a good while like a scared bunny. When I finally looked up, my cousins were wailing and desperately trying to explain how they had met a ghost. Dad later told me how he found us. He and a few adults were worried about us not coming back on time, and decided to search out for us, tracing back our usual route to the school. And then they found us, sleeping side by side between tombs, covered with a sheet of ragged plastic. Dad tried to convince me that we all just fell asleep there out of exhaustion and had a nightmare. But I am sure we did see a ghost, and how we were found was just a cover-up by that Sly Ghost. Hi, it's Anthony here, and thank you very much for your listening. This was the third, and for now the last episode of the childhood series. If you missed the previous episodes about weird experiences from childhood, do check them out, links in the description. I was a pretty unsocial boy in my childhood, so memories of wild adventures with a gang of friends is definitely missing, though that doesn't mean I wasn't anyway mischievous in my own little way. How about you? Any stories of misadventures? If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to my channel, giving my videos thumbs up and comments, and sharing them with others. I'll come back with something new next Sunday. Until then, stay safe and take care.